Hello everybody and welcome to episode 20 of the Wild Eye Diaries. As Alistair had mentioned last week, things are in full swing here at Wild Eye when it comes to the safari side of things. And the reason why I say this is because we still have 3 guides out in the field hosting safaris. This is namely Trevor, Alistair and Johan. Myself, Marlon, Andrew and Gerry are still in office, but we will be making our way out fairly shortly. And when I say guides out in the field, let's start off with them. Trevor is currently in Madikwe Game Reserve and he's hosting our Madikwe photo safari. He is joined by a guest that accompanied us there in January this year. And what Trevor has done is he's going to be chatting to Grant Scott, who is going to give us his perspective and his differences between the seasons from January into now, June, July, and also his standout highlights of these 2 separate safaris. Alistair, he's currently in Botswana hosting a safari, and unfortunately we do not have a video insert for him this week due to poor connectivity out in Botswana, but we do have a text update from him, so we can give that a read and see what he has to say. Johan is currently hosting our 2nd week of our Masai Mara Experience safari, and for those of you who follow him on social, you will understand where I'm coming from this. They have had one incredible week in terms of all general game sightings, but their predator sightings have been absolutely mind-blowing. Then we're going to move over onto the guides who are still office bound. And this is Marlon de Toy. He is going to be chatting about his preparation for his Mana Experience, which is his next up-and-coming safari. We're then going to stay on the topic of Mana pools, and we're going to hear what Andrew has to say as he is venturing off into Mana pools today. And he is going to chat about the particular safari, which is the Mana Pools Trails safari, his reasons as to why and what makes this safari so different, his highlights and what he looks forward to most on this particular adventure. Gerry van der Walt, he is office bound for the next 2 weeks. The next time I'll see him is in the Mara camp when we host our first week of the Great Migration. And he basically touches down and chats briefly about people who are so driven to accomplish or win awards and announce this on social platforms. He also chats about how people are too focused and driven on the theoretical side of digital photography and get so stuck in that they actually lose the point. And when they get out into the field, they cannot execute. So he basically just stresses the fact, yes, theory is good to know, but you have to put the practice or put that theory to practice when you're out in the field. But on that note, I'm going to let this episode of the Wild Eye Diaries get running and continue. I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode, and my update will be from Kenya as I will be hosting the Big Cats and Tusker Safari. Enjoy the rest of your week, have a great weekend, and as I mentioned, I look forward to catching you in the next episode. Have a good one, and cheers for now.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Wild Eye Diaries. Hope that you have all had a wonderful week thus far. I'm currently at Madikwe. It's our last night here. I'm hosting the photo safari here at Madikwe at Nkuru Lodge. It's been an incredible couple of days. I've got a good friend here and guest, Grant Scott. I thought it would be a great idea for this week's segment just to sit down with him and just get a couple of his thoughts on the trip this week and also his trip that he went on earlier on in February in the year to Nkuru as well. So yeah, Grant, nice to have you here.
Cool, yeah, Trevor's been fantastic. And I mean, we think about some of those sightings this afternoon.
Yeah.
That little rhino, I mean, he was like a couple of weeks old.
Yeah.
And just so special.
Very, very special.
But, you know, I think for me, the logic in coming back to Nkuru and Madikwe now this time of year in winter was to compare it to my trip earlier in February where it was summer. And a couple of things stood out. Obviously, the overall tones in the bush were very much more sort of browns and yellows and so on, but still a lot of green around. The peltiforum and a lot of the leadwoods and a lot of the acacia, still a lot of green leaves around, and so it made for quite a rich vibrance of colours. We also had some unseasonal weather, and that gave us lots of misty scenes and so on, which made for very interesting photography. I think the number one enjoyment factor really was the kind of gees or spirit in which the trip is conducted. You know,
absolutely.
We were really a bunch of people, and yes, my family made a big portion of that group. But there was a lot of great banter and really good times, aside from the photography, which was brilliant as well. And you know, as always, and I saw it even more with my two young girls taking photographs on this trip. You know, the way you guys give people just little highlights in a sighting and make you aware of things. You know, check that shutter speed, maybe try a higher aperture, lower aperture, take a portrait shot, etc. That on the fly, not quite instruction, but suggestions. Just keep those key points like front of mind.
Absolutely.
And you know, you can see over the week how both my girls and my own photography, and I still have some big lessons to learn. I need to nail it, higher ISO stuff, and you know, just how we've developed with that. It's been really special.
I think, sorry to interrupt you there, but I think from my side as well, just to emphasize what you've just said, I mean, it's my first time to Nkuru, and I've been absolutely blown away by the setting, the lodge, the waterhole. I mean, the waterhole's been super productive every single day.
For sure.
But I think, you know, in terms of a photographic guide like myself, a trip like this has been an absolute breeze when you have like-minded people coming together, and you know, it's not about what you see, it's about being out in the bush and sharing it with those individuals around you that creates that truly incredible experience.
Very special. I mean, this waterhole in front of the lodge, as you say, I mean, it's probably the biggest debate we've had is, do we get out on drive or do we sit and watch what comes here? This little waterhole is so productive, particularly in the drier season. We've had black and white rhino, we've had buffalo, elephant, plenty impala and zebra, brown hyena. You know, the rhinos, we had black rhino, you know, 3 nights in a row almost here at the waterhole.
Very special, very special. And this isn't your last trip with us this year. You've got 2 more coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to it. South Luangwa Monopools.
I can't wait. And then Londo's in November.
And then Londo's as well.
So I mean, great. Interesting, back to Nkuru and Madikwe, and you know, the biggest difference for me compared to the sands is you've got these rolling hills and a lot more elevation changes, and so you get these vistas and landscapes with the mist that I mentioned in those valleys and so on, which is slightly different to the sands, which has got thicker bush, it's more flat, still super special place, and density of game, particularly you know, the cats. But I really am looking forward to those trips. So what's been particularly special about this trip, though, has been having the family with me, and a little bit of that was paying it forward, so that they're quite happy with me heading off on 3 or 4 more trips during the year. But that has been particularly special.
I must just say, from our side, I mean, I know we met a couple of years ago at Londolozi, and it's really been incredible to spend time with you and your family, and I mean, we've made some very special memories over the last couple of days that I know I'm going to carry with me forward, and hopefully it's going to be the first of many trips together. But it's been a special few days.
It's been awesome. We've had a great time, and I can't wait for Monopools and South Luangwa with Marlon, and then El's heading up to London with us. And you and I need to sneak in another one sometime
absolutely.
in the next 6 to 9 months.
Couldn't agree more.
Cool.
Well, Grant, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.
And it's our last evening here, sadly, heading back to the big city tomorrow. And that's pretty much it for my segment this week in the Wild Eye Diaries, and I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Cheers.
Hello everybody. Okay, so for this week, my entry for the diaries is coming to you from the Masai Mara. As you can see, we busy having breakfast, and I'm hosting our second week of the Masai Mara Experience. I've now been here for 2 weeks, and I can tell you it's been absolutely phenomenal. This morning again, spending time with 5 male cheetahs, seeing 3 kills, yes, 3 kills in a space of about 2 hours. The game viewing has been absolutely top notch. It's often a concern with a lot of people coming to the Masai Mara out of migration time that they think that the game viewing won't be as good as they would have hoped. I can promise you that's not the case. We've had so many lion sightings, so many cheetahs, leopard around camp, which is phenomenal. There's actually 3 leopard around camp now, and lots of we've had black rhino, lots of elephants, buffalo. So the game viewing out of season is phenomenal still. Maybe the only thing is the grass is a bit long, so it is a little bit harder to find game, but we've definitely not had any shortfalls from a game viewing perspective. Okay, now I'm flying back in a couple of days time, flying back to South Africa, and then a few days at home before then hosting a Timbavati and Kruger safari. But I'll catch up with you guys in the next week's episode. I'm going to go and enjoy some breakfast and enjoy the last few days in the Mara. I'll catch up with you guys soon and enjoy this episode of the Wild Eye Diaries. Cheers.
I hope you're enjoying the Wild Eye Diaries so far. I'm going to be speaking to you about a special place I'll be going to next week. It's called Mana Pools, and many of you would have heard about this since it's a place that Wild Eye has traveled to many times before. It certainly is a place that's very dear to my heart. It's tucked away in Zimbabwe, right in the north of the country on the border with Zambia. The Zambezi River splits Zambia and Zimbabwe, and it's right there in the lower Zambezi where you find this special place. It's slowly grown in popularity over the last 5 years or so. Wild Eye has been going there since 2013. Never have we encountered anything like that in Africa. It presents such a unique photographic safari experience, and in fact goes way beyond the photographic experience. Many places you go to, you're there for the photography, and Mana, I think, bends the rules a little bit in the fact that you go there because obviously you get great photographs, as many of you would know, but in addition to that you get encounters with big game such as elephant, buffalo, lion, wild dogs and much more, all on foot, very close, very personal, very intimate. To fully appreciate Mana Pools, you need to be prepared for it. So I wanted to take some time to give you some tips and information on how to prepare adequately for a safari experience to Mana Pools. So let's tackle the most commonly asked question. What photographic gear do I take there? I personally like to travel with 2 camera bodies. We usually visit in the dry season. It can be quite dusty, and you really want to have 2 camera bodies. Every time you open up a lens with your camera exposed to dust, it's not good for your sensor. Small dust particles will definitely seep in there, affects your image quality, especially if you spend an extended period on safari. The kind of lenses that I take for Mana Pools would be, I always travel 3 lenses, a wide angle, either a 16 to 35mm or a 24-70, both work very well. A 70 to 200 is crucial. That focal length is really special in Mana. Mana is it consists of a very big open woodland. That's the area we focus on mostly. Large ana trees, a lot of space underneath them, but several of these trees, and it is really picturesque. And we often get up into the floodplain, and again, very pretty. The last thing you want to be doing is just sitting at 500mm or whatever the telephoto length is, and just getting close-ups and portraits and headshots and full bodies and stuff like that. You really want to shoot animals and environment, and a 70-200 is the perfect lens for that. Getting onto the telephoto, it is always good to have a telephoto, regardless of where you travel. And Mana is no different. Although I would think of anything to 300 to 400mm is a great length for Mana Pools. It's always a good idea to have an extender in case you encounter predators. You might have lions on a kill or dogs on the hunt, where you might want to be a little bit closer lengthwise on your lens. and that's why it's good to have a telephoto lens ready. So how it works at Mana Pools is we spend a lot of time on foot. We drive with the vehicle, but we do, once we find something of interest, leave the vehicle and approach on foot. Now this is where photography becomes a bit of a challenge, because once you get on foot, what do you use as support? If you're strong enough and you can handhold a telephoto, then by all means do that. But if you can't, you're sometimes presented with a bit of a problem. What most guests do is they bring along a monopod, which is good. So it gives you some support and you shoot quite comfortably from that. Also, carrying gear sometimes can be a little bit tiring. You're often walking with two bodies, a wider lens and then a telephoto. I particularly like a harness system made by a company called Holdfast Gear. It works very, very well for my cameras. I can have one camera here, another camera here. I've even held a 7 kilogram setup on it quite comfortably. So very, very good system. There's a few others on the market, but something that you can strap around you, that you can hang cameras off, so you can have hands-free. It's always nice. You can lug your backpack with you, the camera bag, that can come along with. But just a good idea to give that some thought, because you will be spending a lot of time on foot, and it's pointless just taking one camera when you can have access to more. So that covers most of the photographic requirements. Now, Mana is in the Zambezi Valley and it gets really hot. Even in winter, the daytime temperatures are warm enough to have short pants and a t-shirt or a vest or something like that. It's very, very comfortable temperatures. Summertime, September, October gets really hot. In fact, some of the hottest temperatures I've experienced in Africa for sure. So it's important to pack adequately. You're flying with a chartered plane. There's often luggage restrictions, anywhere from 8 to 12 kilograms for your clothing. The camera bag as well, it's difficult to limit it exactly, but try not to exceed about 14, 15 kilograms for your camera bag also. Getting ready for Mana, and the weather is pretty simple. The mornings are cool, but it never gets really cold. So you can have a jacket, maybe a hoodie, a buff, maybe gloves if you want, but long pants and you're pretty much good to go. But by 8 or 9 in the morning, you are already warming up and often just strip layers. And by midday it is warm enough. The afternoons are usually, you can grab a jacket on safari and head out, and it's usually more than enough to keep you warm on safari. Summertime, it's almost shorts and a shirt, button-up shirt like this, or a t-shirt. You pretty much can leave a jacket at home. It is that kind of hot, even during the night, and so easy to prepare and pack for Mana. So there you have a few thoughts on Mana Pools, getting ready for it. There's more that I could share, but I won't keep you for too long. There's some other interesting things that you can see in the diaries this week, so I'm sure you'll want to enjoy that too. But if you have any questions on Mana Pools, it's easy to reach me via email. Please do that, send them through. If ever you join us on safari and Mana Pools, we'll be sure to let you know what exactly you need, and you'll be in touch with your guide and he'll talk you through the whole process, and you'll have somebody to send questions through to. Without further ado, thank you very much for watching along. Very, very cool to share this with you, and I look forward to doing it again, and also look forward to sharing the experience of Mana with you once I get back. Thanks guys, enjoy the rest of the episode.
Hi guys, so I am heading off to Mana Pools tomorrow morning, bright and early, and I'm very excited to get back up there to host the second edition of our Mana Pools Adventure Trail. This is quite a different trip to some of the other safaris that we run, but even some of the other trips that we do to Mana Pools. So there's really 3 elements to it. So the first 3 nights of this trip, we're going to be staying at Chitaki Springs, which is far away from the floodplain, a lot further inland, literally at the base of the escarpment as you drop down into Mana Pools National Park. And basically what happens is that there's water that flows off of this escarpment beneath the Earth's surface and then hits a rock shelf, and it is then forced to the surface of the Earth at this Chitaki River. And so there's a very shallow spring that starts to flow. It really is very shallow, so shallow that you could see when a herd of buffalo have been down, because the whole spring kind of just recedes a little bit, and then slowly but surely as the buffalo have passed on, the water then starts to kind of percolate through the Earth's surface again and then get to the surface and then kind of flow down the river.
It's an incredible place, very, very wild. So this is the only source of water in that area at this time of year, which means that you've got almost a constant presence of elephants in the area coming down to drink. They're digging into the riverbed itself to access fresh, clean water rather than drinking from the spring. Lots of baboons, lions in the area, buffalo coming down to drink almost on a daily basis. Leopard are obviously permanently in the area as well. So all of our activities here are on foot, and it's really a case of getting into position at the right time of day and really just sitting and waiting for the animals to come down and drink. So we'll probably do a shorter walk in the morning, landing up back at the spring where we'll take up a position and just kind of wait for things to come down. So it's going to be quite nice. And for me, this safari, it gets you back a couple of 100 years ago and makes you think, what would the bush have been like? And I often feel that we go to these areas and there's often so much development and that the experience is still fantastic, but I long for this pure, wild and remote experience that people would have had 100, 200 years ago. So it really does excite me. And then the second chapter of this safari is that we spend 2 more nights literally not even fly camping, because that would mean that you set up a camp, but we literally carrying sleeping mats and sleeping bags with us. We're going to walk from the Chirui River mouth to Njiri Pan, and we're going to overlook the floodplain, and we're going to set up camp there for a night, literally sleeping mats on the ground, underneath the stars. There's no moon at all, so some great opportunities for some astrophotography. But obviously, that then comes with its own set of risks, and the whole crew is going to take slots, probably an hour to an hour and a half each to keep watch. And for me, this is one of the most exciting parts of this trip, because it's very rare that you get to sit on your own in the bush for an extended period of time. And for this hour, your sole responsibility is to kind of stoke the fire a little bit, make sure that the flames are there, not too bright that you can't see what's going on around you, but not too dim that it doesn't ward off animals. So you sit for an hour, you keep watch, and when your time is up, you kind of get the coffee going, you wake up the next person, they then take over the shift, and in that way we make sure that the group is kept safe throughout the evening. And we do 2 nights of this. So from the first night, we wake up, do a little short walk onto the floodplain, and then walk further downstream, following the course of the Zambezi and the floodplain a little bit further to the east, where we will then set up camp in inverted commas, for another evening underneath the stars. And then the final chapter of this, the third installment, is that we head to the fabulous Mwinilunga camp at the Trichelia site on the floodplain of Mana Pools, and we're going to spend 3 more nights there. So it's a very different safari. It's required quite a bit of prep in terms of the bags and gear that we'll take, obviously traveling lighter from a camera gear perspective, doing a lot more walking. You don't have the luxury of taking everything and then deciding what you're going to use along the way. And of course, then taking sleeping bags and sleeping mats. So yeah, it's a great adventure, and that's where the name The Adventure Trail came from. So 3 nights to Taki Springs, 2 more nights on the floodplain, sleeping under the stars, and then 3 nights in a little bit more comfort back at Mwinilunga camp. It's a great itinerary, one that I really enjoy, and I think we're going to be in for some really good sightings. Last year, the area had late rains, so the bush was still fairly green. There was quite a bit of water around, but we still had some great encounters, and I think this year is going to be even better. If this is the sort of thing that appeals to you, Johan's going to be up there in August, and there's still a couple of spaces left on his trip, which is going to combine Chitaki and Mana Pools. So if you're not too fond of sleeping out in the middle of nowhere and having to keep watch at night around a fire, then this may be a better option for you. And his safari is combining the Chitaki region as well as the Mana Pools region. So if this is something that's of interest to you, you can get in touch with one of our team here at the office and they'll gladly set you up. So yes, I will be back in 2 weeks' time. You won't have a contribution from me next week because there's literally no connectivity. I'm taking a sat phone to touch base in case of emergencies, and that's it. But in 2 weeks' time, I'll be back and look forward to sharing a little bit more with you all about this experience.
Hey everybody, so while you guys are watching the diaries, I'm in Cape Town. Last night I presented for Olympus on mirrorless cameras, wildlife photography, and just kind of in general. But when Mike said to me it's time for me to give my insert to him for this episode, I had a couple of ideas. But one of the things, and I've actually recorded a podcast on this, which I haven't posted yet, just hanging back on it, but I think there's a discussion we need to have as wildlife photographers about thought and how we think about wildlife photography. The one thing that struck me a couple of times this year so far is the amount of people that do online courses, and they do the courses, and then after they've done those courses and they Google whatever and they've done the whole thing, they have all the theory but they don't execute. So they're very quick to talk about this is this and this is the depth of field and you're going to have this background and that this, and but then when they get into the field they don't do it. So what's the point of going so heavily after all of the theory if you're not going to use it? Now look, I'm the first one to say that you need to have a theory background and understand the basics, but there's a point when I think we're overthinking this. I think there's a point where we just go too deep into all of this. The more you read, if you don't do anything with it, guys, you're wasting your time. Nothing. It's not going to make you a better photographer by just doing more courses and reading more. And yes, you can have all the theory, but people are not executing. And then I think on top of that, the people come on a trip, for example, and they've read the books and they bring the manuals. I've read the manual. This is what the manual says. But then in the real life situation, nothing happens. If they sometimes make the link, between the theory and the practice, they actually start practicing, just doing. People don't do enough. There's the reason, the intent behind it. And if you follow me on Instagram, and I hope you do because I think there's some pretty cool content, the thing that struck me the last while is how many people out there, photographers, and in all honesty, I don't think they're that great, but in their bio, they push award-winning and published and acclaimed. Ooh, what's the other one? World-renowned. And you think to yourself, at some point, you've got to let your photography speak for yourself and not just kind of go on this. So you won an award 14 years ago. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares anymore. Get out there and just keep doing. I used this quote in one of my Instagram TV stories as well. And I said that it's the Andy Warhol one where he basically says, you know what? You make your art, i.e. do your photography. Put it out there. Let people decide what they want. While they decide whether they like it or not, you keep on and just do more. Make more art. Make more photography. The mindset, guys, I think that's a problem that a lot of us, me, you, a lot of us need to address, because we're leaving amazing experiences on the table. We're leaving incredible images on the table because either we are so heavy on the theory side, but we do nothing with it. That's the link. And that's what I try and do in my safaris as well, is kind of create the link between the theory aspect, but making it practical. If you're not using it for anything, it's just going to stay theory. There's a lot of you doing it, a lot of people out there doing it. And please, as I sit here drinking coffee from my Tanzania cup, please, please, please don't worry about winning awards. Don't go for it. Don't make it the reason you do photography. If it happens on the side, that's cool. But don't make it the reason. I think this is something I'm going to explore in more detail in future, especially on podcasts and stuff. But I think the mindset of wildlife photography is a little bit messed up, and we should just get back to enjoying it. Just have fun with it. That's what it's really about. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the episode, and I will chat to you guys in the next week's diary. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. Have a good one. Bye.